and welcome to another segment of Step Into the Black Light. I have the honor of introducing the founder of Dynamics of Leadership, the founder of the Freedom Party, former Black Panther, former New York City Councilman and chairman of the Higher Education Committee, a friend, a mentor, lifelong community activist, the Honorable New York State Assemblyman, Charles Barron. What's going on, my brother?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the intro. Back at you. One of the greatest artists that I've met.
Thank you, man.
Makes a statement with his art, doesn't just do art.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, you are responsible for drawing, sketching my vision on where I want to go here. Remember that piece?
Absolutely,
my
man.
longtime friend, Michael Markman.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm blessed to have you here and talking to you. So what have you been up to lately? What kind of light have you been shedding out there in our community?
Well, you know, lately I've been really trying to build Operation Power. Operation Power is a grassroots, community-based, Black radical political organization that's focusing on primarily, but not exclusively, the electoral arena. We're looking at building a national Black radical political movement. You know, part of the problem we're having is that Black faces in high places don't mean anything.
That's right.
So when you just talk about putting a Black person as president, as you see what happened, it didn't change our poverty, unemployment. Matter of fact, deported more people, built more military bases in Africa. And even if you have a Black vice president or Black attorney generals and mayors, Blackness without a committed consciousness to Black people and Black radicalism means nothing. So we have a lot of Black faces in high places. As a matter of fact, we have over 13,000 Black elected officials countrywide, but yet we have more poverty and unemployment and mass incarceration and homelessness than we've ever had. So we're looking to build a Black radical movement. And Operation Power is co-chairs Malika Jabali and Karan Allen. We've been doing a great job in East New York, and we've been transforming the infrastructure of East New York, and we beat the Black neo-colonial puppets of the Democratic Party in East New York, and we took over the seats, the city council, the state assembly, the 2 district leaderships, male and female, the community board, the county committee, and the judicial delegates. We took over all of that in East New York, which formerly was a part of the Democratic Party, the Black Party. So that's what I've been mainly up to, building a Black, radical, independent political movement.
Beautiful. And speaking of radical politics and self-empowerment, this week we're honoring the legendary Marcus Garvey and his movement. And I know you have been a lifelong supporter of Marcus Garvey, and you've been influenced by him. You've written 2 books about him, and I can't think of anyone better to talk about his global legacy and what he means to our community. So what was it that first appealed to you about Garvey and his movement?
Well, you know, on a personal level, I have to say that Marcus Garvey revived me. Marcus Garvey's spirit revived me. I was in deep conflict with some of the leadership in the movement, and I stepped away from it for a while. And I'll never forget this day. I was in my living room saying, oh man, you know, where are you gonna go from here? Who are you gonna hook up with? What you gonna do? What's the strategy, the vision? Oh, so I was like in my living room, just kind of like lost for a minute as to where I was gonna go. Marcus Garvey hit me. His spirit came over me. And I started thinking about, I don't know why his name came to my mind. I said, maybe I'll check out Garveyism. I found every book I could find on Garvey. You know, George Hill, he did 9 volumes on Garvey. And of course, John Henry Clark did stuff on Garvey. And of course, Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Amy Jack Garvey, his wife did some work on him. And I just read everything. And then I started, I did a radio broadcast for APCO, the African People's Christian Organization, under the leadership of Reverend Herbert Daughtry. And that's how I got to write a children's book and a young adult's book on Marcus Garvey. The children's book was Up You Mighty People, You Can Accomplish What You Will. And the young adults was Look for Me in the Whirlwind, which was a powerful statement he made after when he knew he was going to die, said he was going to come back to liberate us. But I did that series, and then from that series, Look for Me in the Whirlwind series, that's when I did the books and got into Garveyism, and then got back into the movement, and that led me toward electoral politics eventually. Because you remember Marcus Garvey, in addition to being the greatest organizer, mass organizer of African people the world has ever known, particularly Africans in America, most of our movements emanated from Garveyism.
Right.
You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Master Farad Muhammad, you know, Malcolm X's father, Garveyism, you name it. In any movement of any meaning, Garveyism has some foundation. And they say there was 2 to 10 million people in Garvey's organization, and it was all over the world. As a matter of fact, Garvey never stepped foot in Africa, but yet he had chapters in South Africa, and the Mau Mau movement was influenced.
Kwame Nkrumah.
Garveyism. So throughout Africa, because of his papers, his newspapers, and the different things he's done, it spread throughout Central America, South America, and of course, North America, here, all throughout the Caribbean, the West Indies, all throughout Africa, Garveyism, whew. And when he came here in 1916, actually, he was very fond of Booker T. Washington. And he read Up From Slavery. And Booker T. Washington, unfortunately, died in 1915. He died the year before Marcus Garvey came in 1916. And when he came, he began to look around and say, where's the black man's army? Where's the black man's men of high stature? And he built the African Legionnaires, the brothers and army. He built the Black Cross Nursing Unit, the sisters, the Black Star Line Shipping Company, the fleet, and he also built a Phyllis Wheatley Hotel. He built grocery stores, universal grocery stores. He built everything you can think of. And Marcus Garvey took off. And then he said, Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad, connecting us to Pan-Africanism. So he was profound, and he certainly revived my spirit.
Wow. So this leads into the next question, which you kind of answered, but we'll follow it up. How has Garvey affected your life and your leadership choices and skills?
Well, you know, the thing that really helped me with Garvey helped me with, is to think more proactively and visionary as opposed to overly reactionary. See, our movements now, whether it's movements against police brutality, that's all over the world now because of the killing of George Floyd and others, those are reactionary movements. And those are mobilizations, not organizing for power, not organizing for self-determination, not organizing for liberation of Africa or our communities. It's mobilizing in response to racism within the capitalist system. So when you mobilize against racism and you don't organize for liberation, for nationhood, for independence, for self-determination, for Black economic self-determination, then you're just reacting to the symptoms of capitalism: poverty, unemployment, police brutality, mass incarceration, you name it. And as you organize around symptoms and not the deeply rooted illness, the system, you find yourself fighting against racism, which is not a system, it's an ideology. It's an ideology by capitalists, by racists, to impose things on you. So when you fight not against capitalism, not against colonialism or imperialism, these systems that produce poverty and unemployment and homelessness and all of that. You're fighting for inclusion into a fatally flawed, racist, parasitic, predatory, capitalist system with this warmongering, imperialistic foreign policy. So you say, what? There's been 40 some odd presidents and we don't have a single black president. They gave you Obama. And you were happy. You stopped demonstrating. Your poverty didn't change.
That's right.
Your unemployment didn't change. You didn't get more money for black colleges or black farmers. You didn't get free health care. You didn't get free tuition. He did some good on the 2-year colleges. But basically, he was a custodian of an imperialistic foreign policy and a colonialistic domestic capitalist policy in America. He was the new custodian. Why? Because you focused on race. See, when you focus on race, you're going to get diversity. You're going to get Kamala Harris. And they're going to say, whoa, the first black VP, big deal. That has not changed. Now, she and Biden will be the custodians of a racist, parasitic capitalist system that has endangered us. The big battle in the 21st century is not for who's going to be president, Donald Trump or Biden. Our battle is against capitalism. Capitalism is the problem, and its racist ideology, its ideology of racism is the problem. We have to dismantle this capitalist system. We got to get to the root. That's what radical means, getting to the root of the problem. So what Garvey did is saying, look, I don't want to be in your system. I'm going to build a nation. I'm going to build some economic self-determination. I want to see the liberation of Africa for Africans, not for Europeans. Do you know the enslavement of the African built the European nation?
Of course.
The enslavement of the African and the theft of land from the indigenous people was the foundation of capitalism.
Right.
The founding fathers, I saw Barack Obama last night talking about he's preaching from the Constitution. The Constitution was written by a bunch of racist crackers who stole
right.
this land from the indigenous people and stole us, enslaved us, and in the constitutions, we were 3/5 of human beings. In the Declaration of Independence, they called the indigenous people savages. At the time that Betsy Ross was stitching the American flag, we were catching stitches in slavery. And that's why Frederick Douglass did his powerful speech, what does the 4th of July mean to me?
That's right. Right. It got no relevance to me.
It got no relevance to me. What are you talking about? Shoot.
Right.
So
right.
When we now, everybody says, oh, we got to stop Trump. You got to stop Trump. You got to stop Trump. No, you got to stop capitalism.
Right.
And so you vote for whoever you want. I'm writing in reparations as my candidate. I'm going to do a write-in candidate. Who's your candidate, Charles? Reparations now. What? You got to stop Trump. Right. All right. You stop Trump.
But what's the issue for us? What's the issue for us?
What you going to start?
Right.
So my thing is that
right.
People say, you got to go with Biden and Harris to stop Trump. I said, tell me a reason to go for Biden and Harris without mentioning the name Trump. Boy, were they silent, because you can't run down all the stuff that he has done. He's a racist in a different kind of way. Kamala Harris is an opportunist, and both of them are capitalists. Both of them will support this system. At some point, we can't do the lesser of two evils. At some point, we got to say we're not voting for evil. We're voting our conscience. So I think that African people should write in reparations all over the country and then focus on local politics, radicals, so that we make revolution from the bottom up, not the top down.
Wonderful. So as you said, and one of the reasons why we started Stepping into Black Light is, you know, protests are a tool, but there are a lot of other tools towards our empowerment. And Garvey gave us the skills and the tools to empower ourselves in a lot of different ways. You kind of, again, answered this question, but I want you to expand on it. Why is Garvey still relevant today? and how can we expand on his ideals in the future? And who are some of the leaders out there that are the branches of the Garvey tree, in your opinion?
Well, you're not that many, but there is a brother by the name of Amali Yeshitela, and he is with the African People's Socialist Party.
Mhm.
They are based in Florida, and they have a base also in St. Louis, and they have a base also in Oakland, and they have stores in Philadelphia. Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party, they are really promoting Garveyism. They have Black Star Line Enterprises. They bought up in St. Louis. They didn't just go to Ferguson and get on TV like some of our other opportunistic leaders did, even though some of those leaders like Jesse Jackson and Sharpton, the people rejected them. But they didn't just go for photo ops. They went, Yeshitela, to organize the people. And then after it was over, he stayed there. His wife, Ona, went down there. They bought up real estate. They bought up some buildings that were abandoned because gentrification is really devastating neighborhoods. They brought up buildings and they built businesses. They built African farmers markets, and they built housing, what do you call it? A catering hall.
Mm.
And they built businesses. They hiring Black people. They did the same thing in Florida, in St. Petersburg, Florida. They built things. They bought property. They using Garveyism to make, but they go even further than Garvey to me, because they're also talking about making revolution,
Right.
Liberating Africa. Garvey talked about it too, but they're talking about the liberation and unification of Africa under socialism, and not a Marxist kind of socialism, but an African kind of socialism. So I think they are closest to what Garvey is doing. And the reason why we were attracted to each other, because I want to get into the economic part, and they want to now get into the political, the electoral arena with Black radical revolutionary politicians, elected officials. So that's why we came together. I would say they're the closest. And of course, the December 12th movement, Viola Plummer,
Mm-hmm.
and Omawale Clay and Roger Wareham and Colette Peen, they are also talking about Black power. They're talking about revolution at Sisters Place. They're talking about cultural revolution, having jazz at Sisters Place. And they're talking about fighting against gentrification. They led massive demonstrations. They had one on reparations. They're strong supporters of my bill on reparation. And they went to Africa for the Durban conference in South Africa and made reparations a crime against humanity, which means retroactively we can always fight for reparations. They focused on the liberation of Zimbabwe and President Robert Mugabe, who I brought to City Hall, and they had a fit, but that's all right, they'll get over it. And he's a socialist, and he has liberated the formerly known Rhodesia and now known Zimbabwe. So those are the two groups that I have a close kinship with. And then finally, another group that I'm getting closer to is the Shrine of the Black Madonna.
Mm.
It's one in Atlanta, Detroit.
Yes. They have a bookstore too, yes.
Yes, and they have one in Africa and Liberia, and they believe in Black liberation theology.
Yes.
And they believe in the Black revolutionary Messiah, Jaramogi Abebe Ajiman. He is the founder. His name was Reverend Clegg. I don't know if you remember that speech that Malcolm X made, Message to the Grassroots, and he mentions Reverend Clegg. He said, when he said that famous line, "We don't be singing in no revolutions, we too busy swinging."
That's
So
right.
Reverend Clegg was talking about, you don't be singing, you need to do some swinging.
Right.
So those are the three entities that I'm dealing with that I think is proactive, that is African-centered, that's talking African liberation, and very close to Garveyism.
Very good. You mentioned Garvey asked the question, where are our great Black leaders? And you are one of them, and your wife, City Councilwoman Inez Barron. You are both great leaders, and I think Garvey would be proud of you, and he's probably looking down right now, proud of what you have done for your people. And I want to thank you for blessing us today with your presence you've been an inspiration to me and so many people in the community for so long. You fought the good fight to lead us out of the struggle and into the light. And we wish you well, brother. Stay blessed. One love.
One love. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity and say on behalf of my wife and Operation Power, we thank you for providing this forum for us to go forward and do as Marcus Garvey said, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Beautiful. And I just want to say to everyone out there, thanks for tuning in to Step Into the Black Light. We will see you again soon. Thank you, brother.